And we are back, and it is time for the ElseViews. This is the part of the show where we talk about the shows that we've watched over this past week. Um, where boy howdy, I watched a doozy, and I think I'm gonna go first on this one, Corey, because then we could both talk about yours. Let's hold off on the stars thing in a second, but I'm gonna talk about a Amazon Prime original. Airs over in Channel 4 in the UK. It aired in February over there. And I started to watch it, but then time just sort of got in the way. And that show is Catastrophe. They just had their third season, and this has very specific meaning for me. I watched this in one day. There's only 6 episodes in the season. This is the very last thing Carrie Fisher filmed ever. Period. Full stop. Days later after she wrapped up filming is when she got on the plane and had her heart attack and unfortunately passed. Um, and she's so good in this show. But for those of you guys who do not know what Catastrophe is a UK comedy created by Sharon Horgan and Rob Delaney. That's it again, since it is a British show, each episode or each series or season, as they are called here, series in the UK, runs for 6 episodes. So they've done 18 episodes. The first season is essentially man meets woman. Man fucks woman over the course of 7 days. While he's on a business trip in London, man flies back to America. Woman calls him to let him know, hey, I'm pregnant. Man moves to London to be there for the baby and to be there for her because he does have some feelings for her. It's more like feeling them out. They end with, I
Sounds like
believe
it
they get,
filtered out over that 7 days.
yeah. I
By the
believe
way,
they
when
get,
you say he fucks women over 7 days, is that one time fucking? And
no,
because that's a long goddamn time. So he's either really really good at it, or
or
he's
he's
really really bad at it.
no, it's like it's a six. It's I remember when they were first billing it or first like talking about it, they said it was over a 6 night stand. So it's like they met like over the course of 6 days, and they're just doing it like they're like 20 somethings, or like they're teenagers just finding their genitals. Um,
By the way, just want to
so
say thanks for letting us monetize this YouTube.
but it's so they fall in love and all this stuff. They get married. Season 2 comes out. There's a time jump, and they've had the first kid. They've had the second kid. They're going about their life. It is a comedy, but it relies more on the drama bits of this, and the um and going through this, you figure out all the things like about their family and how they really enjoy the times where where they fuck up and stuff like that, because like you could see in there where Rob's mad at Sharon, and then Sharon says something and makes him laugh and all that. It seems, for a dude who is single, I couldn't tell you this, but it seems like it's very realistic of couples. Like you could be mad at your wife at one point, but then she says something and you're like, actually that was really funny, and stuff like that. um
You just described my entire marriage.
exactly. So season 2 ends with him finding a receipt for the Plan B pill. And that's where it ends, and season 3 picks up here. Season 3, and I'm gonna let you know right now, if you're wanting to watch the Carrie Fisher episode, it is the last episode. It is episode 6, and good God, she was amazing in it. um she plays Rob's mom in here, and Gary Fisher even makes appearances in the show, and Gary Fisher is her dog.
Yes.
And and she's so good. In here you find that Rob is he is an alcoholic. He has a problem with the alcohols, and he's trying to hide it in here. And he episode 5, so at episode 5 he goes because Sharon's dad had a stroke, and so she's over in Ireland with her family, um trying, helping out around there and stuff. He gets there because he's wanting to confide in her and in Sharon. Hey, how I said I don't drink that often? Well, I've been drinking. I need help. She opens the door and is like, how did you know that my dad died? And so he's trying to, pull himself up to pull up his family, because he's the man, and he's got to be the rock in this situation, even though he's severely fucked up right now himself. He then confides in his mom, and it is by far one of my favorite lines that Carrie Fisher has said on the show, where she's like, are you fucking kidding me? If you fuck this up, I will fucking kill you. She didn't say fuck that many times, but I'm paraphrasing. But basically, it's like,
that sounds straight up Carrie Fisher to me.
Yeah. But she goes, if you fuck this up, I will kill you. And I'm like, all right. But no, it is honest to God a great TV show. I highly recommend it. Like I said, they're all half-hour episodes. So I mean, you're looking at what, 9 hours? Yeah, 9 hours of for a show. Actually, I think they're half hour. But anyways, you're not looking at that much for the whole show. And I saw this, and I saw the end. I saw the Carrie Fisher episode with Carrie Fisher, and I'm like, done. Just there's nothing else I could say. But yeah, it's a great way for the show to end. It's looking back on it, it's a little poetic that Carrie Fisher's last thing that she filmed was, or had a scene where she was at a funeral and all that. But it was nice to see that was in the beginning of the episode and not, at the end. But yeah, so I mean, you could catch it on Amazon Prime right now, or if you're in the UK, it is available on Channel 4. Yeah. So Corey, you've been seeing some gods, haven't you?
Well, I usually do because I check myself out in the mirror every day. What? No, I'm gonna say I'm a big Neil Gaiman fan, but there are certainly more avid fans than I am. I've loved his work for a long time. I went on a long quest to get all of the Sandman comics in the hardcover collections, which was very difficult, including the Death hardcovers. I looked for a long time for the High Cost of Living, which was the first Death collection in the original hardcover. That took some doing. Seasons of Mist was the other one that I managed to find that was actually somebody's copy that they had gotten personally signed. So I feel really bad about it, but fuck you, I have your book now, and I'm happy. I've got a lot of Sandman and Neil memorabilia. When I thought we were going to record on Monday, I was wearing my Neil Gaiman shirt with him with a blazing sword, holding a book, and all this other cool shit. Because I'm a geek. I'm a bit of a geek, and while I'm not going to say that American Gods is my favorite of his novels, I might like Neverwhere a bit more. I really like the book. And I still haven't actually read the sequel, Anansi Boys, yet. But I have it, and it's one of those things that I kept planning to get to. And I'm certainly going to be picking it back up now. But Neil Gaiman has not had a lot of luck getting his properties to TV or film. They had Stardust several years ago with Charlie Cox, who's now Daredevil, and Claire Danes. And it's a very cute, sweet movie. I actually like it, but I can understand that it was a hard one to pitch to a regular movie-going audience. And so it didn't do great. We've struggled to see some of his other stuff hit either TV or films. There was the Sandman movie that's had several tries at getting made. The last one was Joseph Gordon-Levitt was working on it, and then it kind of fell apart again. I think David Goyer is involved with it again. I hope that kind of falls apart because fuck Goyer. But then there's American Gods, and American Gods is pretty damn cool in and of itself. Getting it to stars and having Brian Fuller be in charge of it, be the showrunner on it, I think we could not be luckier with what happened with the show. Brian Fuller was actually working on Daredevil, I believe. No, he was working on Star Trek.
Yeah, Star Trek Discovery. Around the same time.
And he left Star Trek Discovery because it was interfering with, he didn't have enough time to do both, and he decided to put himself into this instead of that. Thank you. Thank you, Star Trek Discovery, for being a giant pain in the ass. Or thank you, Stars, for making this more enticing. Thank you, Neil, for making this more enticing with your really good story. Whatever it took. I like Brian Fuller. We've talked before about him on Hannibal. We've seen him do several different things. I always go back to Pushing Daisies, which is a show that I really, really loved in the first season, and then the writer's strike, which we almost had again this last week. The writer's strike kind of fucked it for everybody. But if you, I've got his Mockingbird Lane movie on my computer I still need to watch, which is based around the Munsters. Wonderfalls. Like, this is a guy that it's just like, shit, yes, I can't wait to see what he's going to do, because visually what he brings to the storytelling is so incredible. And on top of that, he knows how to tell a story. He knows how to utilize his characters and his actors really well. And so what I remember about American Gods is it was a slow starter for me when I was reading it. I didn't know exactly what was happening as I was going along. As Shadow was driving, we found out that his wife had just died. He had just been released from prison a little bit earlier than he was expected to be because his wife had died. They let him go. But it took a while for me to figure out what was happening. Having that knowledge going into this, I was just like enwrapped in the fact of, like, I'm seeing these characters and I could not picture anyone better to play them than who they've chosen. So Ricky Whittle, who's playing Shadow Moon, and Ian McShane, who's playing Mr. Wednesday. Mr. Wednesday, like, fucking was made to be played by Ian McShane. Yeah. Like, it's one of those things you don't realize it until somebody says it. You go, holy shit. It's like the Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man moment. It's like, God damn it. That is just so fucking obvious. I don't know why I've missed it this whole time. But especially when you get to see it played out on the screen, it's just mind-blowingly good. And the show hit notes that I did not expect to see in the first episode, let alone some of them I didn't expect to see at all. If you reference the character Bilquis, played by Yetide Badaki, I'm probably not saying the name right. I feel bad about that if I'm not, but that's as close as I'm probably going to get today. My wife and I were watching this together, and my wife didn't really know a lot about it going in, or I don't even think she knew anything about it going in. And I'm like, I'm just going to put this on and see what happens. So in the first 5 minutes, we see a scene with Vikings, and Vikings show up on the shore of this land, and they don't give us a lot of information other than the fact they showed up there because they're there to conquer. It's like, that's what we do. We're Vikings. We go, we row ashore, we conquer. And as soon as they step on the land and they start to go and enter into the woods, one of the Vikings just gets shot with like 1,000 arrows. And I mean, just fit. It sounds like Matt on a weekend with a sock. Hi, Matt. You don't listen to my show. So, and then the Vikings like, did we just do something? Did you see Gary? Gary got shot a lot. Hey, Gary, you okay? Someone kick Gary. Gary ain't getting up. So then they like start to try it again, just a little more trepidatiously, and all the arrows just like hit right in front of their feet. They're like, yeah, I guess we're not going in there. And so after a little while, and they realize that they can't really conquer this land, that they were ill prepared for it, they try to get out of there. So they build a boat. They're like, yeah, we're gonna sail on out of this place. But they don't have any wind. And so they try to conjure their god. They try to conjure Odin to give them some wind. But they're so far away from home that they can't do it. So they figure, well, Odin's got one eye. Let's try to look a little more like Odin. So the leader is just basically stabbing each one of them in the eye, going along the line. They're all blinding themselves as a tribute to their god. Doesn't work. Doesn't have the desired effect. So then they're like, well, Odin's a god of war, and we don't have anybody else that we can fight that's not just going to shoot us like fucking poor Gary over there. You doing okay, Gary? Walk it off, man. So they just start killing each other. This small group of Vikings just like, well, we got to make it good, and we're going to get our god to pay attention to us. And they're just hacking themselves to shit, like cutting in half, bodies just flying everywhere. And my wife looked at me and she said, this is the greatest show I have ever seen. 5 minutes in, that's all she knows so far is the Vikings just like blood just pouring up, much in a Hannibal recipe. It was so good. And then it just like, it gets out of that whole thing into the regular story. And you think, all right, well, we're going to slow down now. And we do, to a certain degree. We're introduced to Shadow. He's in jail. We get a little bit of interaction between him and Laura, his wife. And then we find out that she dies. And then Shadow's released, and he has to go find his way home. And that's when we get to see his introduction to Mr. Wednesday. And again, Wednesday, the way he's introduced and the way he's acted by Ian McShane is so good and so compelling. And you're just kind of like, you're pulled in immediately with this character. Because he's kind of a con man, and he knows everything that's going on, and he's not really forthcoming with it. But he and Shadow have some shared traits, because Shadow is also done con stuff. Shadow also understands. He looks at him, he calls him out on his shit. And Wednesday's like, yeah, okay, cool. You know, we can talk, and I'm gonna get you to work for me. And Shadow's like, well, I'm not interested in working for you. I just got out of jail. I've got a job lined up. I'm going home to this. And Wednesday's like, well, no, you're not. You know, and then he kind of like lets it go. Shadow gets home and finds out that not only is his wife dead, but a lot of other shit has gone down. And things are pretty fucked up. And he doesn't have a lot that he can do at this point. And so he finally succumbs to Mr. Wednesday's offer of working for him. In the meantime, he also meets an Irishman named Mad Sweeney, played by Pablo Schreiber. And this was another one of those moments where my wife is like watching this, and the guy says something. He basically introduced himself, and he says that he's a leprechaun. And my wife looks at me and she goes, did he just say he's a fucking leprechaun? Now, he is a 7-foot tall leprechaun, if anything. And we're like, okay, well, he's Irish, so he's just making a joke. He's not making a joke. He's not making a joke at all. And he shows you exactly by like throwing gold coins out of the air into a cup and just like taunting Shadow the whole time. He just wants to get fucked up and start some shit with this other guy. And it's just so great. I mean, everything about it. It's like, you know that he's egging Shadow on, and he wants to fight him, and he wants to fuck with him and everything. And you're just like, is Shadow going to succumb to this? And when he does, it's just like, great. This is awesome. This is so cool. And then the final scene was with Bilquis. And I'm not going to spoil that if for some reason you haven't seen it, or if you haven't heard about it, because the internet is really blowing up over this thing. Yeah. The scene involves one of Bill Murray's brothers, which is just fantastic in and of itself, and a blind date and a shared dinner. Let's just go with that. Let's just go with like we were saying earlier, there's some eating going on. It is divine, and it's sort of like just barely starting. And there's so much more to come. And there's so much more that we already know is going to come in the actors that they've chosen for it. Because Crispin Glover is going to be in it. Cloris Leachman is going to be in it. Kristen Chenoweth, Gillian Anderson, Peter Stormare, who's going to be in the next episode, Orlando Jones. Like, there is such an amazing cast of people. And then Dane Cook. There's such an amazing cast of people, and Dane Cook are going to be in this. And it's one of those things that I feel like if you, even if you don't know anything else about it, when you see these people showing up, you kind of have to feel excited for it. You have
Mhm.
to know that there's something special to this to get that many great character actors involved. And when you see the story start to play out and you see who these character actors are actually playing and what they're going to do with these parts, it is a really magic thing. And I can't describe how much, I mean, Neil Gaiman is a person that makes me want to be a storyteller. Now, I already wanted to write before I ever found his stuff, but when I started reading his stuff is when I started to develop a different voice than what I had before, and things went deeper. And certainly, some of my writing has happened not exactly like I'm trying to copy him, but there's that emulation. There's that I'm such a fan that your voice winds up shaping my voice. And so there's no way I can say anything about Neil Gaiman without pointing out like he's one of my heroes. He's one of my biggest influences. But I can't touch him when it comes to storytelling, and most people
Yeah.
can't. But he's so comfortable to read. He's not one of those writers that it's like you have to work to get through his stuff. It's not like reading Shakespeare where you have to learn the language and you have to learn the meter and you have to kind of make all these things happen. You read Neil Gaiman stuff and it's so comfortable that it sort of misleads you because you can't think that the story is going to be as deep as it is when it's just a simplistic to get through a page. By the time you do, you start to feel like, oh, holy shit, like I've just been shaken to my foundations by this story. And it didn't, like, it wasn't a violent shaking. It wasn't like, you know, when you're on a ride in a roller coaster and you're like getting pulled everywhere. It's a very smooth feeling. It's a very comfortable feeling, but the whole destination is so much further than what you expected to go to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really love the show. We're one episode in. It's on Stars. If you're not subscribed to Stars, this might be the reason to be. Or if they've got one of those to go apps, then get on that because
Stars
this
does.
is this is going to be the thing to watch right now up until Twin Peaks starts out. I can't think of anything else that's going to take my attention as much. And I'm talking like I'm in the middle of Fargo right now, and I'm loving Fargo. But
Mhm.
this kind of like maybe push Fargo to like if I got three things on my DVR, Fargo's number two.
Yeah. Um, so I came to American Gods knowing that Neil Gaiman wrote a book called American Gods, not reading said book, um, but being curious as to what the show is. So I was much like Aaron, where I knew nothing. I knew, very few things about the book. I think I knew what we talked about when we covered that Brian Fuller was doing this for Stars. Um, but yeah, and you hit a lot of things that I hit on. One of the things I like is the like, and this is coming from the guy who's watching Into the Badlands and watches The Walking Dead, and watches other like the Netflix Marvel stuff, and they all have violence in there. Um, with the Into the Badlands, it is a very stylized, martial arts violent to where when you see someone's head get cut, it's like the straight lines through, but the violence in here, it seems a ramped up version of real to me. Because, like, for example, with you're talking about with the Vikings, which I saw that whole thing with the Vikings, and I'm like, this is American Gods, right? Because that went on just long enough to where I'm like, wait, what's going on? Wait, what is okay? I know nothing. Um, and the and then you get to the fight, and it's just like, all right, it looks like there's just a production assistant like below just throwing buckets of blood and stuff like that. I've only seen one other scene that has more blood like that, and that was the one scene in Cabin in the Woods when the monsters are all out and you just see buckets of blood being thrown at the window.
Yep.
That and I'm like, all right, this looks really really cool. Um, and I watched the whole thing, and I enjoyed this. It's so cool when because you get introduced to um is it the god of technology? Who's the kid? The
Uh, what is it? He's Technical Boy.
te okay. Is that his actual name or is you can't
That's
think of
what he's called in the credits for the show at this
okay.
point in time. Now there's some room and stuff to find out more about him, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So you meet Technical Boy and I'm like, wait, what? All right, this is really wait, is he in a VR headset or is this real? Like I start to get a little tripped out with this but it looked so good. Everything looked so brilliant. Like I don't no, I'm not like I said, I have to catch up on Twin Peaks before I even jump into the Showtime revival. So for me, this is probably right up there. I think this is up at the top of my list of things that it's like, okay, I want to watch this. I like, all right, it's Sunday. Okay, boom, here we go. Like let's watch this show. So I'm really enjoying it as well.
Yeah,
And
it's going to be interesting to see the waiting a week because there's not a lot of shows that we're doing that with right now. Game of Thrones is one of those ones that we watch pretty much as soon as it hits on Sundays. We wind up watching it, but a lot of other stuff we kind of let it build up on the DVR a little bit because it's hard to do that. Like we're the expectation
Mhm.
now because of streaming services like Netflix and everything is like I can just watch 10 episodes in a row if I want to
Yeah,
on my day off or what. The slow build of this season happening, that's going to be it's going to be different to do that with a new show with as opposed to something that we're already into. But I think that we both kind of were okay with it at this point.
yeah, no, exactly.